Hello, I'm Reverend Kate from the Center for Spiritual Living in Carlsbad, California, and I've got a question for you today. Are you enjoying the life abundant? Really, it's 4 questions packed into one. So listen and see how many of these questions you can say yes to. Are you allowing yourself to enjoy life? Are you enjoying life? Are you experiencing life as being abundant? Or are you experiencing poverty or illness or lack of any type? And finally, if you are experiencing abundance, are you allowing yourself to enjoy it? To enjoy that experience? Well, did you say yes to any of these, to some of these, to all 4? Before we go over your answers, let me tell you 2 small stories that I thought might help to provide a framework for understanding this question. So, when I was a little girl, my mother, who was a young widow, lived with her parents and her grandmother and her 2 teenage brothers, and of course me. We all lived together in the same house, and it seemed to me, from my point of view, that the house was always overflowing with people, with puppies, with kittens, with neighbors. There was always plenty of food as long as you didn't get in trouble with my great-grandmother, who ruled the kitchen. Didn't like me climbing into the cabinets. When people came over, there was singing, and I had some dolls. And so, from my point of view, even though I didn't know the word, it was life abundant. In the summertime, my teenage uncles would take me to the beach and tell me not to go out too deep, but just let me frolic in the waves. And I would play in the water for hours, pretending to be a mermaid or a seahorse or a ballerina and digging holes in the sand looking for sand crabs. I was completely immersed in the experience. I loved being at the beach. I had no sense of responsibility, no sense of time, just playing and having fun. Once in a while, one of my uncles would come and move me back closer to the lifeguard tower, and that was about it. And then, when they were done hanging out with their friends on the sand, we'd go home again. I enjoyed it so much, even though I got rolled by the waves almost every day. I thought it was fun. I didn't care. It never bothered me. Then, later, many years later, when I was once again living near the beach with my husband and our 2 small sons, we were invited for a day's picnic with a couple of friends who also had little boys. It was a totally different experience. I thought the waves were too big. The sand seemed like it went down to the water too steeply. The water got deep too fast. I was really stressed out by the experience. The kids were happy playing on the sand. The other adults were having a good time, but I just didn't want to get knocked over by a big wave. I didn't like it. I couldn't relax. My girlfriend said, "Kate, just relax. It's just water. Have fun and just go with the flow." But I couldn't. I said I couldn't, and I just went and sat on the sand and waited until they were done swimming, and then we could go have our picnic and then go home. I sat there feeling embarrassed and also feeling unhappy. So when you listen to those two stories, what changed? Was it the ocean? No. Everything took place within my mind, within my experience. It was my feelings that changed, not the reality around me. In fact, when I was a little girl, happy at the beach, my family had all kinds of problems and was on the verge of losing their house because of my grandfather's business failure. And later, when I was talking about how I had an unhappy day at the beach, actually, my husband and I were feeling prosperous. We were healthy. Our children were healthy. Life was going well. We had the life abundant, but I wasn't enjoying it. I wanted to talk about this topic because I do feel that I've had some experience with it, and I've had some experience overcoming my feelings of non-acceptance. I know that my story is not as extreme as other people's have been. Maybe not as extreme as your experiences have been, but there is a general principle that applies to all of us. You see, until I learned about our teaching, New Thought or Science of Mind, I didn't know that we could actually choose our feelings and our experiences. So maybe we can't always control exactly what is happening, but we can always choose our reaction to what is happening. We can choose what it is we want to have happening in our lives. We can choose to simply enjoy a day at the beach, whether we are children or grown-ups, whether the waves are big or little, whether there's sand in your sandwich or not. It doesn't mean you have to go swimming if you don't like to swim or you don't feel like it, but you don't have to sit there on the beach and stew about it, right? You don't have to be angry at anyone for thinking up the day just because the waves turned out to be a little big, or the day was a little chilly, or there was sand in your shoe, or you feel embarrassed because you can't swim as well, or you don't look as good, or you don't feel as well. I say that we can choose. But I didn't really understand that back when our kids were small. A lot of my decisions back then were really kind of unconscious, to tell the truth. A lot of what I did was based on trying to please other people, based on doing what I thought I had been trained to do, showing that I cared about people by worrying about people. This actually made it so that often I was so focused on the little stuff, the externals, the what's going to come next, that I was unable to relax and enjoy what was happening at the moment. I often poured affection and care upon my family, and I really did and do want the best for them. But back then I would feel guilty if I got too centered on having a good time myself. Doesn't that seem silly? And yet it's very common. While I'm saying this, coming right into my mind, I have a contrasting vision of the celebrities on TV and social media And they seem to do almost nothing but center their lives around their own enjoyment. And it seems like they've created whole media empires based on getting people to watch their daily lives almost minute by minute, shopping excursion by shopping excursion. But we have to keep in mind that that's entertainment. They don't have to be our role models. And I have seen young people who use them as role models or compare themselves to these groomed by the studio makeup artists, I don't know, into these fancy representations of what a real human being is like. I've seen young people who use them as role models go through a lot of heartbreak and feel like they don't measure up. No, I'm not talking about measuring up to anyone. I'm talking about making choices that suit yourself. Oh, maybe you want to have a castle. Maybe you want to be an athlete. Maybe you want to just go to the park and have a good time or be a musician. Maybe you want to be a farmer or a gardener or a school teacher. You get to choose what's best for you based on who you are, your own desires. When I talk about the life abundant, it's more about having a feeling of security or safety, feeling like you have an ability to take care of yourself, that we can express ourselves or have a feeling that there is enough for us of everything that we need. The life abundant is not really about having more than the next guy. And yet, I say that, and at the very same time, I could also say the life abundant is about having more and being more. Two opposites in the same phrase. You know, this can sound tricky, but it's true. And it's also the reason why I don't get too upset about hearing about the billionaires in our society that are, being badmouthed quite a bit right now. Yes, in my opinion, they do seem to have missed the mark and strayed from the path of reasonableness with their extreme desires for monopolistic control of certain industries or extreme consumption habits. But on the other hand, they are seeking, they are on their path, and life is responding to them and to their choices, just like life will and must respond to you and your choices. And that's why we all need to make our own decisions about what is best for us. What do we want? What is our own personal more? There's an old saying, be careful what you wish for, because you just might get it. And how many financially wealthy people have you known that have seemed unhappy? Well, it's not their wealth that made them unhappy. How many artistic and creative people have you known that seemed unhappy? Well, it wasn't their creativity that made them unhappy. How many talented cooks or homemakers or teachers or secretaries or computer programmers or doctors or athletes or engineers have you known that seemed unhappy? What about you? Now, I'm not talking about natural, reasonable unhappiness. It's perfectly reasonable to be unhappy or sad when you or someone you love or someone that you even read about suffers a loss. The past year and a half have brought a lot of loss to a lot of people, and it hurts, and it takes time to heal from it, just like it takes time to heal from a physical injury. There's physical pain, and there's mental pain and emotional pain, and we have to give ourselves the opportunity to heal. No. What I'm talking about is an unreasonable or recurrent or ongoing sense of unhappiness. If you just feel unhappy when you really ought to be happy, but you feel unhappy anyway. Maybe you feel overlooked or jealous or afraid, maybe unprotected or unloved, unhealthy, unattractive, dumb, unsuccessful, unsafe, unimportant, unable to do things, unlucky. Do you notice how many of those words start with un? That's the type of unhappiness I'm talking about that you and I need to focus on transforming our feelings from those states of really unreasonable unhappiness into a state where enjoyment is possible. Because these feelings are really just internal feelings affecting us. Feeling happy at the beach or feeling unhappy at the beach. These are choices that are usually unconscious, but you can bring these feelings into your consciousness, and you can choose happiness, joy, enjoyment, engagement. After all, wherever you go, there you are, right? You're the center of your own universe, and you are a beloved child of spirit. So let's go through the questions again. Are you allowing yourself to enjoy life? If not, it's time to make yourself more important to yourself. You need to take care of yourself. You need to nurture yourself. Try seeing yourself as a child of God, a child of life itself. And so, of course, if you're God's child, that means you should be well cared for. It means you do actually deserve good in your life. Jesus said, "Let the children come to me and do not forbid them, for the kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these." It's time to recognize who you really are. You are the child he was talking about. And the kingdom of heaven is in your heart. And you must let yourself into the kingdom. Now, if you were as old as me, you learned this little saying as, "Suffer the little children to come unto me." But the meaning of the word suffer here, it really just means allow, accept. Suppose we ever always thought of the word suffering as a trigger to ourselves to be more accepting, to get into the flow. Next question. Are you enjoying life? If not, it's time to start looking on the bright side. Make an effort to start seeing the good. Count your blessings. Make a gratitude list. Take a break from suffering. Take a break from getting so entangled into a victimhood point of view that you can allow yourself to switch into having a viewpoint of life that is more like a watcher. Watch life unfold with interest, with joy, with curiosity. Just allow life to go on around you. Notice the abundance of life, the good that is going on, even sometimes when there are some uncomfortable things happening. There is still a plenitude and abundance of good also happening. The sun rises every day. Notice it. Be grateful for it. Just allow life to be around you. And mentally, you could think of it as mentally separating the wheat from the chaff and focus on planting and caring for the seeds of good. Third question. Are you experiencing life as being abundant, or are you experiencing poverty or illness or lack of any type? If you are experiencing lack or limitation, and it's more than just a feeling, it's time to actually start thinking about and visualizing what it is you would like to experience instead. So, beyond just noticing life around you, beyond just being grateful that life is around you, in order to really make a shift in your attitude and in your experiences, I recommend you also add a prosperity practice. Think about what you want, what you need. Is it money? Is it some food? Is it a better job? Is it a healthier relationship with someone? Is it to make amends? Is it to just experience less fear about what's going to be coming next? Once you decide on what you want to see, begin to visualize it. You can write it down, you can draw a picture of it, you can mentally imagine it, you can make up an affirmation. Visualize it. Affirm that it already belongs to you. Yes, already. Even if you don't physically have it, think of it as already belonging to you, just as surely as if an employee were waiting for a paycheck to come in the mail from their employer, right? If this was you, you would know that that check is yours, even though it hasn't arrived at your mailbox yet. That's what I'm talking about when I say, know that it belongs to you. Visualize your good. Accept it as already yours. That's visualizing. And finally, the fourth question. If you are experiencing abundance, or if you are noticing abundance around you, are you allowing yourself to enjoy that experience? You know, some of us grew up thinking it was sinful to be rich, that we didn't really deserve much, that it was the poor that were blessed. And that's not what the word meek means. It means those who accept, allow, enjoy, not struggling, but in the flow. And some people, you know, you or I may have been ridiculed for being different from other people when we were growing up. And that creates a little emotional hesitation about knowing we deserve good. You're okay. You're a beloved child of Spirit. There's nothing wrong with you. There's no reason why you can't succeed. You know, some of us got our minds mixed up or filled up with a lot of false ideas about ourselves, what we ought to be doing, what we should be doing. And, you know, sometimes it was actually because of some very negative experiences, things that happened to us or through us, or things that we may have done that we feel regrets for. It's not really the essential truth about us. They're just ideas. The essential truth about you is that you're okay. You deserve good. It's okay to have good, to share that good, to have enough, to take some of your enough and be able to spread it around, to share it around. It's okay to want to have more good things, people, ideas, projects, experiences in your life. It's natural. This is a universe that is in expansion. The entire universe as we know it is expanding, and we're part of it. That means our lives should also be in expansion. Good in expansion is actually what we are. There's good for you. You ought to have it because you are the beloved child of Spirit. You actually are made of the God substance itself. I can say that with full faith because I know there's nothing else. There's only Spirit and nothing else. You are made of this. Therefore, you are essentially perfect, whole, and complete. And you deserve a life lived in harmony, peace, prosperity, happiness, a life of expanding good. That's the truth. Now, if you have some questions about how to do it, you can visit our website, www.cslcarlsbad.org. We've got some more information, contacts, ideas, affirmations. And you can find out more about this thing we call life, this teaching we call New Thought or the Science of Mind. The truth is, there's good for you. There is a power greater than you are, and you can use it, and that's the way it is. So Blessings to you. Have a wonderful, wonderful week.